Hey guys, how's it going? I think I don't think my intro music played. I'm not sure what's going on with that. That was weird. It worked last week. See, that's the thing that drives me crazy about technology. When it works amazing, and when it doesn't work, it does not work. Um, Last week, I tried the streaming thing. I did the intro. I thought it went well, and this week I try it and put the audio on there or put the intro on there and no music. And I've got a little chat thing down here where I can like chat and get help. And I asked them, I'm like, how come? Because I have another video I'm going to show here in a little bit. That audio works. The audio on my intro didn't work, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, go into settings and do this and do this. And I'm like, I got 30 seconds before I'm going live. I don't have time. So yeah, sorry about that. If you're jonesing to hear that intro music, you can listen to the audio version of the podcast, and it'll be in there. And there's Fred in Alaska. What's up? I think that's Fred from Subarctic Sasquatch. Go over there and check out his channel. He's got a lot of great encounters. Um, Mrs. Lagoon is saying she didn't hear anything. Yeah, I didn't hear it either. So I figured there was probably a problem. Um, I don't know. It worked last week. Maybe I can only do one video um, per stream. I don't know. But yeah, that was weird. All right, so um, don't have a ton of stuff to talk about today. Just the main topic. I want to remind everybody because if I wait to the very end, I'll probably forget. Uh, the Boreal Bigfoot Expo, June 10th and 11th in Fairbanks. Be sure and check us out. Buy your tickets now. They're on sale now. There's going to be a lot of great speakers there. Dr. Meldrum's going to be there. Excuse me. Fred's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Rob Boy's going to be there. A bunch of great speakers. And yeah, we get internet by dog sled. Yeah. So that Boreal Bigfoot Expo also here in the next few weeks. I don't know when I'll get a definite date for the release date. I'm going to be on the, God, this is hard to say, Nocta Vagant podcast. It's kind of like a book club podcast. And what they did was they talked about my book, the Port Chatham book, History and Horror of Port Chatham. And what they do is they do a podcast where they talk about the book. And then they have another episode. The next episode is where they sat down with the author of the book. And I sat down the other day and recorded some stuff with them. And I think it turned out pretty well. Again, I don't know what they said, what they're going to say in the podcast about the book, where they talk amongst themselves about the book. So hopefully they were kind to it. They were certainly kind to me. I'd never heard of the podcast, so they contacted me. It's kind of like a book club, and they've done some other cryptid and paranormal type books. I think they're kind of suffering from the same thing that I suffer from. They have a cool name for the podcast, but nobody can spell it or say it, so it's hard to find. Um, I think Alasquatch was pretty clever, but unfortunately, even though it has the word Squatch in it, it doesn't really turn up in a Google search if you search for like Bigfoot or podcasts or Alaska Bigfoot podcasts. So it's kind of a very singular name. Kind of got to know for what you're looking for to Google my name, which nobody does, I'm sure. I Google myself all the time. I'm joking. So I wanted to talk to you guys. I'm sure Handprint had a coffin. I just connection is unbelievable. My internet is my dog's. There's in Alaska, you seen Jesus. And not too long after that, May 16th, and asked if I'd be interested. Okay, now it says I'm back. All right. So do I need to repeat all of that? Was it all interrupted? Can somebody tell me if they heard that about the cabin and going out there to swab the handprint? I got to tell you guys, I'm not digging this whole live thing. It's just not that cool. I sure like doing just audio only podcasts. But anyway, I guess I'll just keep going because I don't know what's going on. I don't know what has been heard and what hasn't been. So we go out there. We get out there on May the 24th. We tried to get out there sooner. The weather was too bad. And I swabbed the print. And I actually tried to lift it too using fingerprint powder and lifts. Uh, Same stuff that I would use basically at a crime scene if I was trying to lift a fingerprint from a crime scene. And sent it off to Doug Highcheck. And we're currently, I know some people thought that this was going to be a big announcement where I was like, oh, we got the results back. We don't. I just thought this would be a good venue for me to finally tell kind of my side of the story, because I know, if you just watch the Small Town Monster stuff, you just kind of get little snippets of it, and they show a little bit of me um, collecting the evidence and talking about it. But I'm going to show a video here in a little bit that I think, in my opinion, gives a really good sense of scale for where the handprint was located, and just where it's like in relation to a person, where it is on the cabin. And I think it works out. It's a pretty decent video, although I just watched it, rewatched it a little bit today, and I was kind of surprised how many times I kept mentioning it. And I think probably what it was is it was kind of bothering me, but I didn't realize it until later, because I say like several times, like, that's the window to the bedroom I sleep in when I come here. I say it like 3 or 4 times, and I didn't realize till I went back and watched the video. I'm like, man, I said that a lot. So it must have been gnawing on me in the back of my mind, where I was like, ooh, this is kind of creepy. Um, so before we get into all that, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the handprint. I've got some photos here I'm going to throw up on the screen. And yeah, my wife just said she was watching. She said she missed it all. Maybe that's why it cut out, is because you're sucking up all the internet. I'm just messing with it. So anyway, I guess I should probably recap real quick. I'm sorry, man. The audio only people are going to be like, this sucks, because I keep saying the same stuff over and over again. May 16th, the cabin owner from the cabin out area A, he contacted me. He said, hey, Alex and those guys were out here filming. They found a handprint on the back of the cabin, and we'd really like you to come out here and take a look at it. And that was on the 16th. We tried to get out there sooner. We couldn't get out there until the 24th. And I got out there on the 24th, and I swabbed it and collected 6 swabs. I did 1 swab on each finger and 2 from the palm. And I'll throw some photos up here in just a minute so you can get an idea. And I sent those off to Doug Highcheck. And the reason and this is what I understand. I haven't officially been told this, but from what I believe and what I understand, the reason I haven't been tested yet is probably because I'm assuming Doug is waiting for um, Sasquatch Legend Meets Science Part 2 to begin filming. And I'm assuming, again, this is my assumption, that he is going to use some of the budget from that production to get the samples tested, because it's pretty expensive to get that kind of test done. So I'm hoping, I believe maybe this fall is when it's supposed to start. I'm hoping that we get some results, maybe this fall, this winter. And then again, even when he does get them, I don't know when we're going to be able to share them. That might be something they want to hold on to until the spoilers to get out. So we'll see. Yeah. My wife said she did a speed test and we're good. I don't know what the problem is. My laptop is connected. Everything seems to be good. I don't know. Maybe it's probably StreamYard. Maybe they're mad at me because I asked for help and then told them too late. Maybe they're like, cut his feed. So anyway, let's throw some photos up here, huh? Let's do that. All right. Let's do it this way. It's a bigger picture. Okay. So this is the photo of the handprint that was found on the back of the cabin. You can see here there's 4 fingers, and you can't really see the thumb. I know it looks like it's kind of cut off, but there's nothing up there. There's no thumb visible, and you got a pretty good palm print here. And this particular photo, this was I lightened it a little bit. I'm sorry, I darkened it a little bit so that you could see the print a little bit better. It had actually faded a little bit. Like I said, it was found on the 16th. I got out there on the 24th. You know what I should have added to this slideshow was some untouched photos of the print. That way you could see what we were seeing when I got there. But like I said, I darkened this photo a little bit so you could see the residue left by the handprint. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So see how it's kind of a white residue. I mean, this is the handprint. This is, even though the photo's been darkened, this is the handprint. There's no fingerprint powder. There's nothing on there. That's just the straight up print. And this is what Doug Highcheck refers to as Alba Varnix. And I'm going to get into that just a little bit here. Alba Varnix, hold on just a second, is basically the white, dusty kind of print residue that is associated with a lot of alleged or suspected, I guess is a better word, Bigfoot handprints. And it's kind of like a oily residue that's left. And from what I understand, Shelley Covington, Montana, is the person that coined the phrase Alba Varnix. I think I think it's Latin. I think it means something like white, waxy oil or something, or white oil. And I guess they wanted to differentiate it a little bit. And in my opinion, this is my opinion, I think they jumped the gun a little bit by giving it its own name, calling it something else. Personally, I would have went ahead and called it sebum. And what sebum is take your thumb and put it on your nose like this, like I'm doing here, just on the side of your nose, and slide it across your nose, and then look at your finger. And if you see like an oily residue there, that's sebum. That's basically just oils and waxes that are produced by your body. Dave says he missed it. What's that print on? So that print is on the back of a cabin that's out in the middle of nowhere, Dave. This is out. You can't drive to it. You got to get there by boat. It's in the middle of nowhere, and this is on the back of the cabin. I'm going to show a video here in just a little bit that's going to give you an idea of where that's located on the back of the cabin. It's actually about almost 6 foot off the ground. So yeah, we're gonna show a little video here in just a minute. It's gonna give you a better idea. But for now, I'm talking about the white kind of waxy substance there, the alba varnix. I was saying personally, I kind of think they jumped the gun by giving it its own name. I like the idea of just referring to it as sebum, which is the oil that humans produce. People that kind of have greasy skin. It's basically sebum. And here's interesting things I learned because I was reading up on sebum today, and you see a lot of these alleged alba varnix handprints. The things that get touched, cars, houses, windows. Usually smooth, shiny surfaces. And honestly, some of those, I'm pretty confident that a large majority of those are probably human prints that just get dust stuck to them. For example, one night several years ago, I was out in the swamps near Falk, Arkansas. I drove out there, found a secluded place to park out near one of the boat launches. And, I didn't really have the means to get out and walk around in the woods. I mean, it was in a swamp. So, I didn't have a boat. So I thought, well, I'll just hang out here. It's warm. I'll sit out here for a little while, listen to the animals, see if I hear anything, maybe do some recording. And I sat out there for a while. And at one point, I got out of my car, and I had a rental car, and I got into my trunk for something. I was getting my recorder out or my thermal. I don't remember what I was getting out, but I got in my trunk and got my gear out, did my thing, was there for a few hours, drove back to my hotel room. And of course, these are gravel, like dirt roads. Get back to the hotel, park my car, get out and walking into the hotel. I walk behind my car, and there's 2 handprints on the back of my trunk. And it kind of freaked me out for a minute. But then I realized, I'm like, well, those are my handprints. So what had happened is I put my own oils on the trunk when I was messing with it. And then when I drove through the dust adhered to the oils, and that's what I got. But it was kind of, one of those little moments where, oh, what is that? Like, oh my gosh, something was behind my car. Yeah, this is the cabin by the lake and the small town monsters. And also I have several videos on it as well. We call it Area A. That's kind of the working name for it, I guess. We were like, we're going to come up with a better name. And then here we are. So anyway, that was kind of my thoughts on that. Here's something that's going to kind of make you go, So this white waxy substance, this alba varnix or sebum, if you will, I think we should call it sebum because I don't think we're to the point where we should differentiate it from human oils. I mean, oily skin, right? But this sebum, if you guys guess what causes an overproduction of sebum in humans? Hormones can. So like when you're going through puberty or if you're pregnant, you can get an excess of sebum. And there's a lot of speculation out there that a lot of these handprints are left by possibly juvenile Sasquatch. Maybe this is kind of their rite of passage. They got to go up. They got to touch the house. They got to touch the car. It's kind of a test maybe, or a rite of passage, or even I've talked about this before. I thought I was the first person to come up with this, but then I heard somebody else mention it. So I realized I wasn't the first. But if you're familiar with Native American culture, they would have a thing called counting coup. A lot of the tribes in the Midwest, I think, I believe specifically the Cheyenne. I don't know. Every time I say something like that, I always get it wrong. But that name kind of got, it kind of got taken and twisted around to mean basically you're taking revenge, you're counting coup, you're getting revenge. But initially, what that really meant was you were getting close enough to the enemy to touch them without hurting them. Like you just walk up to whoever you were fighting and just kind of pat them on the back or smack them with your stick, but you wouldn't really hurt them. You were just showing that you had enough medicine that you could get up to them close and touch them. And I kind of think about that every time I hear about someone talking about Bigfoot slapping a cabin or touching something, something like that. And people say, well, maybe they're curious. And I'm like, well, are they curious, or is this some kind of a thing that they do to show that they have, the cojones, to their tribe, that look, I've got good medicine. I can touch this. I can touch this human shelter. Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to get to Dave asks, what's the size and scale of the print? I'm going to get to that here in a second. That's going to be in the video here I watch or I play. But yeah, it's not outside of the human range. And in fact, we're going to get into it here a little bit more in a minute, but it's either human or it's Bigfoot. There's no other explanation for this, but we'll get that into a little bit more. I want to touch on a little bit more about sebum and albivarnix before I forget. So guess what, guys? Guess what else I learned about sebum and talking about the production of sebum when you're talking about like having an excess of oil on your skin. Obviously, a lack of bathing, but we won't mess with that one. Let's talk about some other stuff. Do you know what causes an excess production of sebum besides hormones? And that's your diet. And guess what kind of things in your diet can produce excess amounts of sebum? Polysaturated fats, and that means things like fatty fish, cold fish, not necessarily salmon, but mackerel and some kinds of lake trout. Also, nuts, different kind of nuts can cause an excess of sebum to be produced if you eat enough of that. And, just hearing that, when I think about that, I'm like, well, geez, those are probably exactly the things I would expect a Bigfoot to eat in the woods. Those are the kind of things that an animal living in, or a creature living in the woods would be consuming. So, I mean, that's food for thought, literally something to think about when you think about this albivarnix, this excess produced oil on their that they leave when they touch something. Here is it's the same picture, but I went ahead, I labeled it just so you could get a little bit better of an idea. Actually, they're on finger one. You can actually see the dermal ridges. There's actually dermal ridges on there. Also, you can't really see them as well in the photo, but here on the palm, there was dermal ridges as well. Excuse me. And, I looked, and this was interesting. I found in researching this, I thought I would be able to just Google like the differences between ape and human dermal ridges, and I would get a picture of like a chimpanzee or gorilla or something hand or finger and a human one right next to each other. And it turns out I don't think anybody's really done anything like that. At least not that I found in the like 10 minutes of show prep that I did today. That's kind of a joke, but not entirely. You know what I did hear about though, in all of my research about animals and fingerprints and human fingerprints, was the animal with the most human-like fingerprint, that means the fingerprint that's most likely to be confused with a human, was a koala. Koala. Yeah, koala. And I thought that was kind of interesting because you would think, like, well, wouldn't like gorillas and chimpanzees have similar hands too? But all the information I saw said that koalas have the most human-like fingerprints. In fact, to the point where they've been confused with human fingerprints at crime scenes. Which why there's koalas crawling around Australian crime scenes, I don't know. But I find it weird that information's out there. Like, oh yeah, koalas have really human-like fingerprints, but there's no information out there that really says, well, this is why ape fingerprint or chimpanzee or gorilla fingerprints are different than human. Again, like I said, I didn't do a super deep dive into it, but I did look into it, and I'm like, why can't I find this information? It should be, I would think, pretty easily available. Because I was thinking, I really wanted to compare these dermal ridges to human dermal ridges. And I want to say they, I mean, though some of you know, I hate like pounding this drum all the time. Some of you guys know I worked in law enforcement. I've taken fingerprints from crime scenes before. I've done some work with human fingerprints. But at the same time, I'm not an expert. Like I can't look at two fingerprints and say, oh, that's a match or that's not. That's for the crime lab. That's what they do. My job was to collect the evidence, send it off to them for analysis. So I wanted to look at these fingerprints, and I wanted to compare them to primate dermal ridges, well, ape dermal ridges, and human dermal ridges. People are going to argue that humans are apes. I agree, but for brevity's sake, we'll use those terms. And I want to say, just looking at like the dermal ridges here on like finger one there, human fingertips seem to have a little bit more of the swirl pattern, and these seem to be kind of straight across almost. And I don't know. It drives me crazy because I wish I could just get a definite answer. Alex Pedikov actually sent these off to someone. He may talk about this a little bit more in his video. I think he does. Who initially said like, "Oh, that's a human print," and then they said it was bear. I'm sorry, they said it was a bear print, and he was like, "Are you crazy? Like that's either a person or something, a Bigfoot. That's not a bear. Bears don't have dermal ridges. They have pads." But the fact that somebody, and I can't remember, I don't want to call the guy out. I don't even remember his name to call him out, but he was some kind of academic that specialized in like dermal ridges or something, or primate morphology. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, he sent me that message like, yeah, this guy says it's a bear, and I'm like, and he like sends me like his like credentials, like the guy's like faculty photo at the school he teaches at and stuff, and I'm like, that guy's a more, but he was a little old, so I think Alex said maybe he had some problems like blowing up the photo to look at the dermal ridges or something. But anyway, I don't want to. It was crazy. I don't see how anybody could look at that and think it was a bear. And I think that's it's human or it's Bigfoot. I don't know what else it could be. Given where its location is behind the cabin and how high up off the ground it is, I'm hesitant to say that it's 100% human. It is within human range, but I feel that it's kind of which I have. See how slender my fingers are. I have small fingers. My hand's big, but my fingers are small and slender. And it's bigger than my hand. But yeah, you guys want to see the video of the scene? And I'll go ahead and get that running. I think it's about 3 or 4 minutes long. And this was taken the day after I swabbed it. So you're going to see where the handprint is. You're going to see some black fingerprint powder. I'm going to use that as a reference, and I'm going to use the camera a little bit and show you like, okay, this is where the print is. It's this high off the ground, all this stuff. So let's go ahead and play that. Hey, so I know yesterday we swabbed this suspected palm print for possible DNA. I tried to lift it with some fingerprint powder. And today I thought I'd get out here and get some measurements. So I wanted to make a little video to give you kind of a sense of scale. So I kind of went with here as being the bottom of the palm print. There were some dermal ridges in this area. And from here, what I call the bottom of the palm print is about 5'6" from the ground. And from the top of the palm print here to the bottom of that window was about 1'6" or so. So that window is about 7'4" off the ground. If I'm standing flat on the ground, it's about 7 foot tall. I can't look in that window from here. I have to go up the slope a little bit. And this is the room. This is the room that I sleep in when I'm here. So that's a little extra creepiness factor right there. And I got to admit, last night before I went to bed, I made a few extra glances out the window, but I did not close the shade. I didn't do that. In my defense, I didn't close the shade. So I'm going to walk up the hill a little bit here. I'm going to get some more videos and photos and give you hopefully a little bit better sense of scale. All right, so this is the back of the cabin. You can see that black area there, those black spots, that's residue fingerprint powder. And you can see it's kind of hard to get a sense of scale, but I mean, that's pretty, like I said, that window is about 7 foot off the ground. So I'm going to back up a little bit. All right, so here's the view from a little further back on the hill. As you can see, like I said, that window's about 7'6" off the ground. That palm print's about 5'6" off the ground there. And personally, my opinion is what I think happened is whatever left that print was leaning over that tank and peering in that window. I don't know exactly how tall that would have to make it. Probably over 7 foot in the 8 foot range, maybe. It's hard to say, but it definitely looks like a handprint. I wasn't here when it was made. I can't say for certain what it was, but it certainly looked like finger and palm prints. And that's the room I sleep in right there, guys. So creepy. But hopefully that gives you a little bit idea, a little bit more sense of scale there. That's pretty high for somebody to be putting in their hand. And also, this area where we found the palm print, this is the room. If you guys have heard my stories about the cabin out here, my favorite story is when they were framing the cabin in, it didn't have the siding, it wasn't complete yet, is they had a piece of plywood over basically to the right of this window. They were using it as like a little doorway, even though there wasn't a door there. They had a piece of plywood up against the frame, acting as a makeshift door, and they had a large cooler holding it in place, a large Yeti cooler. And in the middle of the night, something shoved on that plywood and slid that cooler across the room, and they heard footsteps, booming footsteps running up this trail here. So that's a little extra creepiness factor. Again, that's the room I sleep in when All right. So yeah, that's hopefully that gives you a little bit better idea of where that was located. Like I said, it was pretty high up on there. It was kind of a weird place for a handprint to be. The only thing, the only rational thing that I can come up with as far as why it would be there would be somebody put it there while they were maybe installing the gutters, or that if you notice that contraption over to the left there, that's like a rain that captured the gutters, capture the rainwater and bring it down through that little contraption there and filters it, and it goes into the water reservoir down there. But even still, if a human put their handprint there or hand there, I mean, they were working on the gutters, which is up higher. It doesn't make any sense why that's like the halfway point between up where the gutters are. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And then it would have to sit there and survive through an entire winter. So it would have to be well over a year old at that point. So yeah, I don't know what it could, I don't know what it could be. I don't know why it's there. Oh, there's Selkirk Range Sasquatch. Hey, bro, what up? There's old Marshall. Me and Marshall spent quite a many nights out in the field. It's good to see him in here. He's got some awesome stuff on his YouTube channel. If you go over there and check him out, I've definitely talked about his channel before. He's got the documentary with me and Will on my trip just last year into Stevens County and the Selkirk Mountains. So check that out. But yeah, as far as the handprint goes, I don't know what's going to come of that. I really, hindsight's always 2020. And I actually talked about this in my book Squatch Cop about when you collect evidence. Two is one is none. Always maybe, squirrel one away for a rainy day. And if I had known then what I know now, I probably would have kept a couple of those, not those swabs, but I would have got a couple of extra swabs. And just maybe between myself and the owner of the cabin and maybe Alexander or Small Town Monsters, we could have come up with the money to get them tested. Probably not as thoroughly tested as they're going to be by Doug Highcheck, but it would have been nice to get, I'm like a typical American. I want gratification. I want answers now. I don't want to have to wait. But they say, good things come to those that wait. Dave just said he did a test to lean against the wall to look in the window, naturally put his hand lower to keep his balance. Yeah, that's kind of what I think. I wish I'd had somebody else there with me so I could have because I think if I remember correctly, I tried to set the camera up and do that. Like I tried to oh, this is what I think it was doing. But because it's such a steep grade, I mean, basically once you step away from the cabin, it just goes up. It's just a hill, and I couldn't get my camera set up to where it would sit still. I couldn't, even with the tripod, I couldn't get it really where I wanted it. So I ended up having to pretty much hold it the whole time. But yeah, it's an interesting find. And, they did a couple of tests where they made they made their own handprints on the cabin. And those things, they were gone within, hours. And it would have been curious though to see maybe after you're there for a couple of days, you haven't showered, you run your hand through your hair, get it really good and greasy, and then slap your hand on the siding and see how long that lasts. But again, I don't think it would last that long. That thing, the handprint that they found, I think was probably was probably made not too long after they got there. I don't remember what day they got there. It was found on the 16th, or no, I'm sorry, they contacted me on the 16th. But I think it was probably, probably a week or two old, probably by the time I got to it. And you could still see it. You could see it with your naked eye. You just couldn't see the definition like you can in the photos that I darken. You could still see it. You just couldn't see it that great. It was about 7 inches or more, I would say, from palm to the tip of the longest finger. But it definitely looks I mean, it looks human-ish. So who knows? If it is human, I would be curious to know how in the hell it lasted that long. I would think that it would, through the elements, and because the only time it would have been placed there, unless it was, which I don't think it was a hoax at all. Um, but the only time that I could realistically imagine that a human would put their hand there would be when they were installing the gutters and that rain filtration system, which I was there for and I assisted with. Of course, I can't remember. I can't go back and say, "Well, I don't remember." I remember so and so put his hand there at that certain time. I mean, I don't remember that. That was, I mean, we were working on the cabin. We weren't like, you know, we weren't taking inventory of everything we touched. But it's crazy to me that if somebody put their hand there, which doesn't really make any sense if you could see where it is because it's right in the middle of the wall, that it would sit there and persevere an entire year, a winter, and then into the summer and still be there. And it was more vibrant. You could see it better when Alex found it versus when I got there. So that's what makes me think it was more fresh. Like it had been done maybe not too long after Alex and those guys got there, because it did seem like it was fading as the days went by. Yeah. Marshall says his hand's about 7 inches. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Uh, I don't think Marshall was in here earlier when I was talking about the oils on your hands. Um, Marshall, when you're producing a lot of excess oils, one of those times is when you're going through puberty. So hormones can cause excess oil production. So I was postulating maybe that some of these handprints that leaves this, it's called alba-varnix, this waxy substance. Maybe they're done maybe by juvenile Sasquatch that are maybe going through hormone changes. Who knows? And that's why, maybe that's why it's not that big. Maybe that's why it doesn't look like a catcher's mitt. But it's all speculation. I'm hoping when Doug gets them tested, we'll really get some answers. Hopefully, I don't know what that means. I mean, personally, to me, I know that if it came back and they're like, "Well, this isn't human," I think for me personally, that would be enough. Like that would be it. I'd be like, "Okay, well, they're real. That's it." I know for the scientific community and a lot of other people out there, that wouldn't be enough. But personally, for me, I think it would be. I followed standard evidence collection protocols. I wasn't there when they found it, and it was out of the, I guess, chain of custody for a few days till I got there. But I don't understand. I don't know how it would get non-human or ape DNA or primate DNA, non-human primate DNA on it from the time they found it to the time I swabbed it. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see, I guess. As far as I know, I don't think there's any other primates in Alaska other than humans. So it's going to be interesting when those results come out. And like I said, I don't know if they're going to come out uh, before or after Sasquatch Legend Meets Science Part 2 comes out. I think that's kind of what they're holding on to it. Personally, and like I said, this happened back in May of 2022. And I wasn't going to say anything about it until I knew the results. And then Alex and those guys, they ended up putting it in their documentary, which I figured it out they were going to do that. I don't know why I was thinking they were going to hold on to it, because I was like, man, that would be great if you could, like, look, surprise, I've got Bigfoot DNA. But I mean, I understand. So I personally was going to keep it close to the chest until I knew what it was. But since they let the proverbial cat out of the bag, I was like, well, why not? I might as well talk about it. So yeah, that's pretty much the story up to now. Alex found it on the back of the cabin one day while they were out there filming. check out Alaskan Coastal Sasquatch. I believe it's still free to watch on YouTube. I believe this was found in part 2, if I'm not mistaken. And you can find out. I mean, they're filming it basically as they're discovering it. I think they have some photos there or some video where they're measuring it and stuff. There were a couple of times when they were messing with it where I was like, "Oh no, don't get too close to it." So I don't think they contaminated it, but hopefully not. But I think we'll find out one way or the other. Hopefully, we get some encouraging news. Like I said, even if it's not enough to convince the scientific community, I think personally for me, it would be enough to convince me just with how involved I was. And yeah, I almost brought the video to show everybody the collection process, but it's like 30 minutes long because it's just literally me. I've got a mask on and I'm swabbing. I swab each finger and I swab the palms and I label everything and put it. It's cool, but it's a little tedious. And I was like, no, people aren't going to want to sit there and watch that. So yeah. So anyway, if I hear anything, I mean, I'll definitely keep you guys posted, and I will do another video on it. But for now, I guess we got to wait. But they say good things come to those who wait. So let's be patient and see what happens. From what I understand, after the Boreal Bigfoot Expo, Alex and I might be heading back out there. So we'll see. In fact, we've got to start putting our heads together and figure out what we want to do while we're out there, because I've got some ideas for some stuff I want to try. Anyway, I think that's about it for tonight. I think I'm going to call it good. I hope everybody enjoyed the stream. Sorry about the problems, but I don't understand what the issue was. My internet seems to be working fine. It might have been an issue with StreamYard. I don't know. My wife was saying our speed test was fine, so I don't know. Maybe it was the government trying to shut me down from talking about it, huh? We'll have to do an episode on conspiracies here pretty soon. But anyway, head on over to alaskwatchpodcast.com. You can listen to all my shows over there, as well as hear about any upcoming news, events, podcasts, or anything like that that's going on. You can buy autographed copies of my books there, and I will send them to you from this room right here in Alaska. And I think that's about it, guys. Don't forget about the Boreal Bigfoot Expo in June. Tickets are on sale now. And once again, guys, I appreciate every single one of you. And thanks for listening to the first cryptid podcast in the last frontier.